how I got into reading. When I was in school, I never really liked reading. There were some books that I found were okay, but mostly I really didn't like or even hated some of the books I had to read. And I never really got into reading because, school never gave us the option to read the books that we liked. I think we maybe had one year where we could choose what to read, but that was it. And mostly what we had to read in school wasn't really the best books for me, and I really didn't enjoy them. But so never really read as a kid. I even had the first Harry Potter book, but I tried to read it a few times. I never could read a lot of it. It went actually so far that when I got into university, I had a roommate who actually really liked reading, and he asked me why I didn't read at all. And I actually told him, like, basically, if I could watch movies, why the hell would I read? Like, it just takes more time, and it's just not as entertaining. So a lot of time went by without me actually ever picking up a book by myself. But I think so around 2017, 2018, I was following this YouTuber called Thomas Frank. He's actually a productivity YouTuber, and you may know him also under the name College Info Geek. That's his website. And he hosts a podcast, and he did an episode about reading books, about his and his friends' favorite books. And I watched that, and that got me thinking that, like, the books they talked about sounded interesting to me, and I was like, well, maybe I could actually like reading. So I started to watch some videos on YouTube about people who like reading. That's how I found BookTube. So after I found BookTube, I started watching some of the bigger BookTubers, mainly Pullman Bananas Books, Katie Tastic, and Jesse the Reader. And so I thought that maybe I would pick books up at some point, but actually it took me still quite a while, even after watching their videos, to get into reading myself. I think it was actually summer of 2018, where a cousin of mine actually handed me a book. It was called We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. And he told me that that's a book that would be pretty good for me to start to read, to get into reading, because it was quite a short book, and it's a thriller. So so he thought it would be perfect for me. And I tried reading that in the summer of 2018, but I just read 1 page, 2 pages, and then put it down. Then when the new year 2019 started, I started a New Year's resolution for myself. I decided to read 3 to 5 books in 2019 just to see if I could actually like reading. Since I already had We Were Liars on my shelf, I decided to give it a go. And I actually really enjoyed it. I read it in like 4 days, I think. And that book actually showed me I could actually like reading. I was really interested in the story. It wasn't too long. It was interesting because it's a thriller. And so it got me hooked. And that book, I can recommend that book actually for anybody who wants to try out reading. So if you like YA and you like thrillers, that book could be really good for you. So that's the first book I picked up. After that, I decided to pick up another thriller. It was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, which is an adult psychological thriller. And I read that. I also liked that book. I had some issues with it, especially towards the end of the book. But I read that book. I liked it. And that's when I decided to buy some books of my own. And that's when I decided actually to give Harry Potter another go, because I actually never read those books. I really liked the movies as a child, but I never got into those books. So I picked up the Harry Potter books, and then I just read the first 3, and I really, really loved them. And so that's when I saw reading could actually be for me. And the final thing that put me over the edge, that showed me I actually love reading, it really just depends on the book, was I watched Game of Thrones. I actually watched in 2019 all of it before season 8 came out. And then when season 8 came out, I was disappointed, like most people, by the ending. And that actually pushed me to pick up the books that it's based on, the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. R. Martin. And yeah, so I decided to pick up the first book in that series. And yeah, after reading that, I loved that book. It was quite a big book, let's say, for me at least, for somebody who was never into reading. Like, I think I picked it up in June, so like 6 months prior, I hadn't even picked up any book by myself. So reading a like 600-700 page big epic fantasy book was a big deal for me, and I loved that book. And yeah, that actually got me hooked into reading. And yeah, since then I've been reading quite a lot. Like, for me, obviously, for people who read a lot, it's not that much, but yeah, I ended up reading 14 books in 2019. And yeah, so that's basically the whole story, how I got into reading. Yeah, maybe if you're looking to get into reading, I would say pick up a book that you're interested in, like read the synopsis, or at least see if you're interested in the general topic. For me personally, We Were Liars will always have a special place, because that is the book that got me into reading. So I would recommend that one if you think you can read a YA psychological thriller. Give it a go. I think it's pretty good. It's written very easily. It's a quick read, and yeah, I think it's a book that gets you hooked within the first 10 pages or so. That would be one of my recommendations. Another recommendation I would give you is if you like Game of Thrones, the TV show, I think you could try to pick up the first book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. It's just called A Game of Thrones. And yeah, with that one, I would be a bit careful because it's written a bit tougher, so maybe you won't like the writing style, and it's not a quick read. So it actually took me a month roughly to read it. But yeah, if you love the show, you will love the book, because it expands a lot on what you've seen in the show. And yeah, the storylines in the later books diverge a lot, so it's not the same as in the show. And yeah, you may get a different ending if George R. R. Martin ever publishes the ending. So yeah, that's what my tips would be. If you want to see a video on how to read more in your daily life, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you for watching the video. Yeah, if you liked it, leave a subscribe. Goodbye.